Motivational interviewing is a collaborative, person-centered communication strategy designed to elicit and strengthen a client's own motivation for change. It is primarily a method for the resolution of ambivalence, a conflicted state where an individual simultaneously wants to change but also has a reason to maintain their current behavior. Put simply, it is a way to work together with a client to overcome challenges towards change. In motivational interviewing, the practitioner acts as a facilitator rather than an expert, adopting a non-confrontational approach to guide the client. This describes the spirit of motivational interviewing, which includes the three pillars of collaboration, evocation, and honoring autonomy. Collaboration is a partnership that acknowledges the client's expertise on their own life. Evocation is activating the client's intrinsic resources and reasons for change, and honoring autonomy is acknowledging the client's right and freedom not to change, suggesting that if they desire change, it is not extrinsic, rather it is intrinsically motivated. To embody the spirit of motivational interviewing, the practitioner follows the RULE or rule framework to ensure that the conversation remains client-focused and goal-directed. R is to resist the righting reflex. The practitioner suppresses the urge to advise the client on the right path. For example, if a client says, "I'm too busy to go to the gym," the practitioner avoids saying, "You just need to wake up earlier." Doing so avoids the paradoxical effect, where the client begins arguing in favor of staying sedentary. U is understanding the client's motivation. The focus remains on the client's own interests and values rather than the practitioner's agenda. This enables growth and autonomy and competency, ultimately increasing self-determination and intrinsic motivation. L is to listen with empathy. Effective practitioners here aim for a rule of thumb where equal time is spent listening and talking. To listen with empathy means to be compassionate and invested in the client, and to take their perspective. E is to empower the client. The objective here is to foster self-efficacy by highlighting the client's past success and internal strengths. Commenting on self-efficacy successes reinforces the good work the client is doing toward their goal. In the context of exercise adherence, a sedentary client is often stuck in a state of unresolved ambivalence. They may foresee long-term health risks, but are prioritizing the immediate rewards of the status quo, such as comfort or stress relief. A practitioner here strives to develop discrepancy. This is a communication skill helping the client see that the gap between their current sedentary behavior and their broader goals is apparent. This is often achieved through a decisional balance exercise, which explores the pros and cons of both the status quo and the proposed change. An example of this exercise is to have the client identify that the status quo is remaining sedentary, and the pros could be, "I get to relax after a long day of work, and there's no physical discomfort." The costs of this, however, are, "I feel guilty every morning and I'm losing the energy to play with my kids." The change in this situation is starting regular exercise. The benefits would be, "I would feel more confident and have more energy to enjoy my life and my family," and the costs are, "It would be difficult to find the time and I'm worried I might fail again." This approach ultimately empowers the client to develop a change plan grounded in their own values. To understand how motivational interviewing can facilitate exercise adherence, the stages of change framework must also be understood. A client who is currently sedentary may begin in the pre-contemplation stage, where they aren't even yet considering a change. In this stage, the practitioner's primary task is to raise doubt and increase the client's perception of the health risks associated with their current behavior. As the client moves on to contemplation, they become actively ambivalent. They start weighing the pros and cons of exercise, and the practitioner's task here shifts to tipping the balance. This is achieved by exploring their reasons for change and increasing their confidence in their ability to succeed. This process is operationalized through the two phases of motivational interviewing. Phase 1 is building motivation. The goal of phase 1 is to build a rapport and resolve the client's unresolved ambivalence using the OARS or OARS skills, where O is for open-ended questions which allow us to learn what the client values. A is for affirmations such as compliments or statements of appreciation that validates the client's strengths. R is reflective listening, capturing the implicit meaning and feeling behind the client's words. And S is for summaries that link together discussion points, ensuring mutual understanding and highlighting the discrepancy between their current lifestyle and their future goals. Subsequent to phase 1, the rapport building phase, is phase 2, which is strengthening commitment, which aligns with the client using change talk. In the case of moving from sedentary to active lifestyle, this is characterized by the client expressing the disadvantages of staying sedentary and identifying the clear advantages of becoming active. Where phase 1 is about identifying clear intentions, Phase 2 focuses on goal setting and negotiating a concrete plan of action. Without this shift to a goal-directed approach, both the practitioner and client risk remaining stuck in ambivalence. The practical application of motivational interviewing really begins with these OAR skills. They are essential for building rapport and establishing a therapeutic relationship that is consistent with the spirit of motivational interviewing. Consider more deeply this case of a client who is sedentary but has expressed a desire to be more active. Begin by asking open-ended questions, ensuring the client does most of the talking. For example, I understand you have some concerns about your current activity levels. Can you tell me more about how these concerns are affecting your daily life? To which the client might respond that they are feeling ashamed about their current health, that each day they sit on the couch, they imagine themselves out exercising and being a more fit person, and they also want to feel that they are healthier so they can have a more flourishing life with their partner and their family. Affirmations here help validate the client's strengths and support them during the difficult process of change. An affirmation response in this situation might be, I appreciate that it took a lot of courage to discuss with me your health, and your willingness to be here today shows a real commitment to your future and your well-being. The client then may go on to say that each time they think about exercising, they simply don't follow through. They've tried a few times in the past to establish a routine, but they have failed at seeing results and have failed in longevity. Reflections here involve rephrasing statements to capture the implicit meaning and feeling which encourages the client to explore their own motivations more fully. Such as, it sounds like you're feeling discouraged because you've attempted to start exercise routines before that didn't last, and you're worried that despite your best intentions, you might face those same obstacles again. This kind of reflective listening captures the underlying feeling of fear and frustration rather than just repeating their words back to them. Summaries are used to link discussions, again ensuring mutual understanding and pointing out the discrepancy between the current and future situation of the client's behavior. Summarizing in this situation might sound like, let me just confirm that I understand everything that we've discussed. You are worried about your activity levels because you value being healthy and strong for your family. Although past attempts have been difficult, you're worried again about failing to maintain this routine. You've rated this change as quite important to you and you want to commit to something. How does that all sound? The OAR's skills and conversation elicit change talk, where the client begins to express their own intentions to take action. Once this commitment is clear, the practitioner can then transition to phase 2, which is to collaboratively develop a plan of action. This can involve techniques like using an importance ruler. For example, asking the client, if you can think on a scale of 0 to 10, how important is it for you to commit to walking each morning? Where would you be on that scale? The client might say, at a 5 or a 6. The follow-up might be, now it's very interesting to hear that you aren't at a 0. Why do you think you're at a 6 and not a 0? Furthermore, the practitioner might say, I really believe in you and your goals for starting a walking routine. What would it take for you to move from a 5 up to an 8, or even a 10? The goal of this technique is to identify the discrepancy between the current situation and the future goal. This aligns with the preparation or action stage of behavior change. The goal is to make a realistic plan. This can be a SMART plan, where the client is able to specify their goal, measure the efforts made, attain the goal, be sure the goal is relevant, and execute in a time-bound manner. Summarizing a goal that the client puts forward might sound like, now you have mentioned that you are going to try to begin walking each morning because it's important for your health goals. You record the minutes walked every day. You plan to attain this by setting your walking clothes directly by your bedside and joining your partner for their morning walk. And you believe this is all relevant and worthwhile because you're concerned about your health, and this is a good start to show yourself you can do it. Your plan is to do this 5 out of every 7 days over the next week between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. How does that all sound? The primary objective of motivational interviewing is the resolution of ambivalence. The process is not necessarily finished the moment the plan is created. In phase 2, the practitioner works to strengthen commitment and negotiate a concrete plan. However, the spirit of motivational interviewing continues into the maintenance phase, where the focus shifts to supporting the client's self-efficacy and developing strategies to prevent relapse. Ultimately, motivational interviewing is considered successful when the client has transitioned from a sedentary lifestyle into a lifestyle of moderate intensity exercise behavior, supported by their own intrinsic motivations.